Good afternoon, everyone. I am Joanna Marimonde Rodber, and for today, we will be talking about endangered species management. So first, let us discuss our objectives. Our objective number one is to discuss the meaning of endangered species management, as well as we will discuss the importance of endangered species management and identify endangered species and its population. So what is endangered species management? So endangered species management made a basic legislation that preserve endangered species. So as we have known over the years, we have gradually become aware of the harm we have done to our ecosystem or to our nature. Now, through endangered species management, we are able to restore zoo, wildlife refuges, and nature in general. So that is why we make basic legislation or laws in order to preserve that endangered species. So as well as to maintain healthy ecosystems and preserve biodiversity, they make an effort to collaborate with diverse organizations. So we are implementing legislations or laws to protect the ecosystem and the nature with the help of different organizations or especially the government. So earlier regulations or the laws have focused exclusively on game animals. So this management or this program seek to identify all endangered species and its population and to save as much as possible the biodiversity regardless of the usefulness to humans. So regardless of the biodiversity usefulness to humans, the endangered species management projects or aims to identify all endangered species and preserve and save them as much as they can. So let us talk what is endangered species. So endangered species are organisms that faces extinction. They are deemed to be in immediate risk of extinction. So there are two main factors that cause a species to become endangered are habitat loss and genetic diversity loss. This is according to the National Geographic Society 2022. So may dalawang reasons why species or a certain animal or human become endangered. It's because of their habitat loss. So remember the dinosaurs, the theory of dinosaurs, that they were extinct because of their habitat loss, because they kanang naa daw na igo na nature sa ilahang habitat. That is why they become endangered. And as well as the genetic diversity loss. So wala na yung genetics or variation on that specific species. That's why they become endangered. So example of endangered species are these in the picture, which is the gharial, the kakapo, and the amur leopards. So next are the threatened species. The threatened species are threatened with extinction. Those that are most likely to do so. They are not extinct, but they are threatened. So mura lang sila og kanang padulong pa lang sila ma-extinct. They are threatened by the habitat or something na naay mawala sa ilaha in order to survive. There are species that is thought to be imminently in risk of going extinct across most of all or its range. So the example of the threatened species are the black-footed ferret and the tawny nurse shark. So next is the vulnerable species. So the vulnerable species are the species that are risk either have a low population naturally or have experienced localized depletion as a result of human activity. Vulnerable species are also considered vulnerable if it is threatened by unfavorable conditions that threaten its habitat or ability to survive in the wild, but it is not yet endangered by extinction. So vulnerable species are those species na naka-experience o kawala because of human activity. Siguro gipang patay sila or gipang hunt or there are naturally mga mubo lang gid sila o population. For example, the military macaw. So these species are considered vulnerable because they are threatened by unfavorable conditions such as those depletion of ilahang population due to human activity. So next are the keystone species. The keystone species are some species in every ecosystem that are essential to the survival of other species there. The ecosystem at night exists without the keystone species, which could be a large predator on an unassuming plant. So keystone species such as prairie dogs, or in the picture, have a large impact on the ecological process, and their extinction would have a ripple effect on many other members of the biological system. So keystone species are essential in order for other species to survive because sila manggod ang ginakaon sa other species, and if wala sila dili pud mabuhi ang other species. That is why they have a ripple effect on other members of the biological community. So next is the indicator species. So as we have seen, indicators, so species that are associated with particular biotic communities, successional stages, or environmental conditions. They are known as indicator species. They are an organism that indicates a certain environmental condition by its presence, absence, or abundance is known as indicator species. When determining the health of an ecosystem, indicator species may be used as a proxy since they can indicate changes in biological state of a specific ecosystem. So for example, frogs or any amphibians, because amphibians are very prone to change the environment. So if ever they can sense threat, they change color. So that is why they can become a proxy since ilahang changes sa ilahang lawas can be a sign nga naay nahitabo sa ilahang ecosystem or naay threat sa ilahang ecosystem or habitat. So next are the umbrella species. The umbrella species are certain species that is liable for making conservation-related decisions. So conservation-related decision, they have this umbrella term because they protect other species indirectly protects the other species that make up the ecological community of their habitat. So they require large blocks of relatively undisturbed habitat to maintain viable population. So for example is the tiger. So the tiger are the umbrella species because they protect other animals sa ilahang habitat such as mga bear, mga leopards, mga fox. They protect those species. So that is why they are important in making the conservation-related decisions. Kaya if wala sila, mawala po tong other species such as those leopard and fox, kaya wala na mo protect from them. So last is the flagship species. Flagship species are unusually fascinating or alluring creatures that evoke strong feelings among observers. These species, like the giant panda, can inspire people to protect biodiversity and support conversation. So as a result, they become an ambassador to raise awareness about the need to protect them in the society. So we don't know na ang giant panda is already endangered, but they became the ambassador in order for us to become aware na we need to protect them. Flagship species are species chosen to serve as an ambassador, icon, or a symbol for a specific habitat. Problem campaign on environmental cause is known as a flagship species. So for example of that is panda. So we can see na panda cute kaayo siya. So they became an ambassador or an icon so that we can inspire people to protect biodiversity and support conservation of endangered animals. So lastly, I have this quote that we all have a responsibility to protect endangered species, both for their sake and for the sake of our future generations. This is by Loretta Lynch, the former United States Attorney General. So this is my synthesis of my whole report, and that we must protect endangered species in order to have a healthy ecosystem as well as for their sake and for our own sake. So in addition to my synthesis, we all have a responsibility to protect endangered species, may it be endangered, vulnerable, threatened, umbrella, all of those kind of species. We have the responsibility to protect them. As well as through the endangered species management, we are able to make laws or legally we can protect them in a way that ma-preserve nato sila in the near future, that is for both their sake na in the future na agihapon sila and for our sake na naagihapon sila in our future generations. So that is why we need to adhere or practice as well as give our awareness about the endangered species management because through this ma-conserve and ma-preserve na to ang ato ang environment in general. So these are my reference for my whole report, and that is for my report, Endangered Species Management.